Welcome to life in the rowboat. You're probably wondering, what on earth has a rowboat got to do with anything, let alone what has a rowboat got to do with doing life, and in particular, doing the Christian life? Well, that's an extremely good question, and I have to confess I was probably like you, thinking that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But there's a wealth of lessons that I've begun to discover as I've considered this connection between the rowboat and the Hebrew understanding of the word future. So let me start at that point in talking about the word future. So most of you would be very familiar with Jeremiah 29 and verse 11. I think anyone around my vintage, and as you can see from my grey hair, I'm on the other end of the scale. Many of us probably committed this verse to memory in Sunday school. And Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, says the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you a future and a hope." Now, the interesting thing is that the Hebrew word for future in that verse is the word achareth. I think it should be an Australian word because we like words that sound like that. Achareth. And this word literally means afterwards, backwards, or after part. And you sort of go, huh? What? That doesn't make any sense at all. It seems to be totally upside down to our understanding of future. So thankfully, we're not alone. There was a guy by the name of Wolf who came across this word and the Hebrew meaning, and after scratching his head for a while, he came up with the concept or the picture that really helps us with a Western mindset to begin to get our heads around what this word's all about. And the picture that Wolf came up with was the future in Hebrew is like a person sitting in a rowboat. And just want you to take a moment and to picture yourself sitting in this rowboat. And of course it wouldn't be propped up against the wall, it'd actually be floating on water. So when you're sitting in the rowboat and you've got the oars in each hand, which direction are you facing? Are you facing the way that you're heading, or are you facing the way that you just came from when you were rowing in this boat? And that's the key. When you're in a rowboat, the future, or where the direction you're rowing towards, is actually behind you. So the future is afterwards, backwards, or after part. It's what's over your shoulder. And of course that begs the question, well, if the future is looking backwards, what is it I'm looking at? And the truth is that what we look back at is the goodness and faithfulness of God. And this explains the way in which some portions of the scripture are written. I might even go out on a limb and say that this describes how much of the scriptures were written. And it's a view from the rowboat, where the authors are sitting in the rowboat and looking back through the generations and viewing the goodness and faithfulness of God. And of course, not all of that view is positive. There's some pretty ugly stuff there. But in amongst both the good and the bad of what we look back at, there's a constant, an irrefutable constant. And that constant is the goodness and faithfulness of God throughout all the generations, stretching all the way back to Adam. Now, another way of looking at this is this picture from the rowboat explains some of those really boring bits of scripture that we just like to gloss over. But I want to encourage you to reconsider those genealogies where it says, and so begat so-and-so, who begat so-and-so, who begat so-and-so. And likewise with the lists of the kings and also the lists of the judges, you know, and so-and-so was king and he was wicked and he did this, this, this and this, and then so-and-so became king and he was righteous and he did this, this, this and this. And the reality is that all of those things are reflections of this view of the future. It's all about seeing the goodness and faithfulness of God. And it also explains why throughout Scripture God encouraged people, individuals, and indeed his people Israel, to set up memorials and to build altars and to remember. And again, all of those things are bringing us to this meaning of future. It's actually the view from the rowboat. I look forward to sharing with you a lot more about life in the rowboat. Make sure you check out my website. It's www.richardeagle.com. And if you don't want to wait to hear me share on Facebook Live all the revelations around the rowboat, you can go to the store on my website and you can actually download a video series that I've put together which will give you all the bits of revelation that God's unfolded from this seat in the rowboat. Bless you. I look forward to catching you next time on Facebook Live.